Jeffrey here, super fan of Common X with my boys Ian and Jared.
And welcome to Common X Podcast with Jared and Ian.
On this podcast, we're about freedom and having fun. If you're a free thinker, this is the podcast for you.
You actually, so you backflipped off that thing too, didn't you?
Yes.
Get up out my way, I'm coming through with the squad.
Everybody settle.
You's gon' rise up, stick it to the man.
Welcome to Common X Podcast with Jared and Ian. This is episode 32. Today's guest is Dawn Dugle, international best-selling Gen X author. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm living the dream, man. Living the dream.
You're living the dream. So I was trying to figure this out. So we're on the West Coast.
Yes.
And there's East Coast. So there's like Tupac and there's Biggie, right? What would the center coast be? Because you're 2 hours ahead of us, right?
I'm in Mississippi, but I grew up in Indiana. So it would have to be some sort of showdown on the basketball court. It's like I'm legally required to play basketball having left Indiana. So I don't know what that is. Larry Bird? Steve Alford?
Yeah. Wow. Larry Bird.
Detlef Schrempf?
Dang. Man, I think Larry Bird would kind of qualify as East Coast, you know, because Magic Johnson is West Coast.
Boston.
No.
They like Tupac Biggie beef. You know what I mean? No.
Larry Bird is from French Lick, Indiana. Like before he went anywhere, he's a Hoosier. Like he was from Indiana, and Hoosiers don't mess around with Larry Bird. Like you.
No, yeah, he will jack you up, huh? That dude will.
They will jack you up for trying to take him and saying that he's East Coast.
All right, my apologies to Larry Bird. Hey, we haven't done an Ian's apology for a while, so that one belongs to you, Larry.
Sometimes it's like I don't know. He may not want to be part of it. It doesn't matter if you want to be part of Indiana or not. Indiana has claimed you. That is how it's going to be. The end.
That is
good luck, Larry Bird.
Right, and to anyone who
Boston, you might be East Coast, but.
We can take them.
But I definitely didn't want to be like Magic Johnson going to play in the Boston Arena or Boston Arena or whatever to play basketball, man. I saw a show on HBO how that was kind of cursed. It seems intimidating. So what was your Gen X childhood like? I've seen you do Gen X recession tips on TikTok. You're absolutely hilarious, and we just love you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My Gen X childhood was a lot of chores.
Okay.
So when growing up, I mean, I try to explain this to I think most Gen Xers get it. Like we weren't allowed to do anything fun. And that's it. Just kidding. No, we weren't allowed to do anything fun until the chores were done. And so like on Saturday mornings, we got up, we had to do stuff. We didn't get to sit around and eat cereal in our pajamas and watch Saturday morning cartoons. Like I had no idea who Speed Racer was until I got to college and somebody thought I was insane. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know what that is. And so a lot of it was we lived out in the country. So there was a lot of stuff to do. There was not a farm, but out in the middle of nowhere and 3 TV stations. So you went outside and you played and you did not come home until the porch light went on. And we usually had a bunch of kids in our backyard playing and coming up with stuff. And so it was mostly one of those. You wanted to stay outside as long as possible because if an adult caught eye of you, if you got in their laser scans, like they would find something for you to do.
Oh yeah.
And they'd find work for you to do. And everybody likes to wax fill. Oh, it's such a great time. No, it sucked at home for some of us because we had shit to do. And my brother could not even reach the pedals of the driving lawnmower, and we put blocks on the thing at 8 years old so he could mow the grass.
Dang, he had a riding lawnmower?
Yeah, we had a riding. We had a lot of grass, so it was like riding lawnmower. We're doing laundry at 8. You know, I'm babysitting my kid brother when I'm like 11. I was home alone for a tornado when I was like I think 9 or 10.
Man.
I don't know. Like that's the Gen X childhood, and running in the streets and drinking the water in the hose. And
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What I discovered though when I was a kid was that if you were reading, people left you alone. Adults would leave you alone because they thought that you were doing homework, and I never told them differently. So I became an avid reader. Like, I'm just like, I can't take this outside shit. Like, I need to stay, like, I need a minute. And so I started reading a lot, and
So that's great.
Totally inappropriate books for a child, by the way. Flowers in the Attic. Nobody should ever let a child read that. Stephen King. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I still can remember the nightmares that I would induce from reading till it was dark outside. And then I was like, well, I only have myself to blame for this, because what the hell? So, yeah, good times. Gen X, go team.
Did you read Arachnophobia? That screwed me up. The one about the big spider?
I didn't read it, but I did see the movie. So it's a small town, and my brother's only 2 years younger than me. So it was like, he's your friend, whether you like it or not. So we're good friends. But I had these two other friends who the four of us would do B movies. And there was one video rental place in town that was always something else, like depended on what year it was. So it was like this year it was a video rental. Last year it was a laundromat. And then the year before that it was a restaurant, and nothing could work, but the video rental stayed. Like the video rental worked. And they had the best B grade horror movies selection I have ever seen. And so we just went through the system, and we do horror movie nights, and Arachnophobia was one of them. April Fool's Day, that's one of my favorites. I just watched it recently, by the way. It doesn't hold up very well, but it's still
most of those don't.
They really don't. We watched Phantasm. I mean, again, these are kids. What the hell?
Yeah,
nobody gave a shit. They were like, you got money, you want to rent a video, here you go. Just don't go in the back behind the curtains. You're
watching Children of the Corn, and you're like,
Children
wait,
of the Corn, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. My brother thinks it's hilarious. He every so often he'll like text me with just the random non sequitur, like "Go Grandpa," where Grandpa's trying to like hack up one of the people, and it's not working because Grandpa's weak and he's old, and my brother thinks that's hilarious. So I'm like, we're all kinds of messed up, I'm sure, but it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to hit you with some hard stuff now. So Blockbuster video or Hollywood video?
Blockbuster,
like all the way in over Hollywood video?
Yeah, because we didn't have a Hollywood video. We didn't have Hollywood video. We had our small town movie theater, movie rental place. And then when I got to the big city of Indianapolis, still a suburb, by the way.
Upgraded.
It was Blockbuster. And I don't think I threw out my Blockbuster. I still had my original Blockbuster card until 2012, 2013.
Whoa. So you were like hardcore Blockbuster video girl.
Yeah, I never had to replace my card because I'm responsible like that. And but I had it like tucked away with like my passport. It was like my passport, Blockbuster video card, and like my dive card, like the really important stuff, just in case Blockbuster came back, which it didn't.
Someday. I think there's still one left, right? There's one in Oregon.
Yeah, there's like a Netflix thing on it, right?
Yeah, I think there's one in like Bend or something like that. The last one.
I was in Bend for work for a couple of months. They must have put it in after I left, or I was totally not paying attention.
I think it's like forever. They're like hell bent on not closing it somehow. Somebody's funding that. I don't know.
It's Oregon. It's Oregon.
It's Oregon. That's all you have to say. It's Oregon.
Oregon.
So, in your opinion, since you like are a woman of thought, you write creative books, and you like, kind of horror movies. We've already revealed that. Do you think that it was better with like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre bag of ketchup blood versus today's AI technology, like in your opinion, as far as being a Gen Xer?
I don't watch a lot of horror movies now. I tried watching Yellow Jackets the other day, and I don't know if you've seen that one episode, and I was out. I was like, "Yep, I'm out. Thanks. No, I'm deuces." So I saw this. This is how I roll with horror and thriller and things like that. So I saw Stephen King. I'm an early Stephen King fan. Some of his newer stuff, I'm like, it's all right, but like I'm Stand. Tommy Knockers, all that kind of stuff. Right. Original Stand, like unabridged, original, like cried when that book was over, Stand. And I saw Stephen King on an interview with Whoopi Goldberg when Whoopi Goldberg had a late night television show. I don't know if you remember that talk show. Yeah. So she asked Stephen King, she says, "What are you afraid of? Are you never afraid of anything and whatever?" And he says, "No, I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of, this is what scares me, going into a dark room and reaching for the light switch and not being able to get it. And then a hand comes out of nowhere and like moves my hand to the light switch. Son of a bitch, I am never able to walk into a dark room and reach for a light switch without thinking of this." And I'm like, you son of a bitch. Yeah. So
I mean, if Stephen King's afraid of that.
Right. What is Stephen King? Yeah. So it's that kind of stuff that I'm all about the imagination. And I love when, I write comedy for the most part, romantic comedy. And I love when people sort of use their imagination to fill in the stuff, like fill in the blanks. And like Jaws is another one that classic movie. You never see the shark till the very end because they had to shoot the whole movie without even seeing a shark. But it was the way that it was built up and the tension and all that. So music and the music, like I think there's an art to that when you have computer graphics and AI and Photoshop and all the things that you can add to something, it takes away from the imagination of it. And sometimes it's good and sometimes I feel like we're missing out because we don't get to have our minds totally messed with in those things.
Exactly. So like, where do you draw your inspiration for when you write these fantastic books? So you've had 31 releases since 2018, right?
Yes. And how many are nonfiction? 3 are narrative nonfiction, 2 are nonfiction. 3 are nonfiction. 1 is off the market. I had to take it off because it wasn't working as a book, but it is something I do as a speech. But the rest are romantic books. They're romance books. And in the most part, they're spicy romantic comedies. And all of the heroines, all of the female main characters are over the age of 35. Most of them are over 40. And so what drew my inspiration for that? Well, I was reading a lot of romance books where the heroine is like an 18-year-old virgin. If that, they're the chosen one, they're going to go save the fucking universe. And it's like, great. I am so great that there is a market for that. However, as a woman who is reaching her late 40s and 50s, I'm now 51. I wanted to see heroines that were like me, like what kind of experiences they went through, that love does not stop when you are no longer a virgin. And I was like, and hey, these women actually kind of know what they're doing. And wouldn't it be great if they found their perfect match in some guy who respects them? And in my books, the guys who respect them always cook them bacon because I'm like, hope springs eternal. Hope springs eternal. But in a cast
the way to your heart then is bacon,
as God intended. Yes. I'm like, we won't worry about cholesterol. We're going to just get a cast iron skillet and you'll know how to make that bacon, mofo. That is how it is done. Exactly. So, I'm like, one of these days. And I write it all out. It's not like it's any big secret. So fellas who are out there who have asked me questions about what I'm looking for, I'm like, you need to read page whatever in this book and you will learn all of it. But I wanted to see characters who had a little bit lived experience, that they were able to find love after heartbreak or whatever. And the other thing that I was finding, which look, no shade to the authors who are writing this, but not all women over 40 are bitter. Like women over 40 are getting their shit together. And if they're Gen Xers, like, come on.
Tough
like,
as nails. Yeah.
You have no idea what these women went through. And so I wanted to see more of that in these books. And I readers have responded to that, and I get emails every week like, thank you for showing that it's not too late to find love in your 40s and your 50s. And oh man, that was really funny, because when you're over a certain age, spicy time also comes with some warm up, and you need to stretch out a little bit or you're going to hurt yourself. Like, I write that all in, and it's like they're going to have a little fun with it and laugh about it too. So that's what inspired me.
I love the comedy aspect of it. I love the comedy.
Getting into that cougar territory, right?
Well, they're not. I have not written a cougar in any of the books. All the men that they're with they're appropriate, age appropriate, and they're not men that are 20 years older or whatever. Like, that was another thing that I find a little cringy. Like, I'll see romance books where, once again, you have some 20-year-old virgin and you've got some 50-year-old man, and I'm like, no.
Right. No, that's
not realistic, right?
I'm not going to yuck your yum. If that does it for you in real life or in the book life, you do you, man. That's not my jam. Go on ahead with your bad self. But I needed something else. Yeah.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. That is not Dawn Dugle's jam.
That's not my jam.
So have you noticed any generational changes from, like, say, the first book that you wrote till now? Like, if you look at your analytics, or do you think, like, is it all Gen X people that are buying your books, or is it kind of generational mixed up? Or
I get readers from all generations and all walks of life. And
awesome.
one reader who has read everything that I have written is an 80-year-old man.
Wow.
I don't ask a lot of questions about, like, what happens after they read the books. I've had a lot of couples come up to me and say, hey, thanks for that idea on page whatever. And I'm like, nope, no. We are not going there. I do not need, you can write that in a review. You can tell all your friends, dude, I don't need to envision that. I don't want to know. But most of my readers are women in their 30s and 40s and 50s. I've got some that skew a little bit older, and I've got readers in their 20s who come in, and I'm like, look, I'm happy to have you here. You may not find this relatable, but here you go. And I've never really made it about, you can't read this book if you're not a certain age or if you're in this generation or whatever. There was a long time when I was in corporate America where I was a hiring manager, and I worked a lot with millennials right out of college. And a lot of my coworkers, who were probably mostly boomers, hated millennials with a blood boiling passion. And I'm like, I don't know why y'all are getting so aggravated. Like, they're ready to do whatever you want them to do. Just tell them what to do. Like, they want some feedback. They want you to, like, notice what they're doing, and they'll do it. And, like, I don't know. I never had a problem with millennials.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, Jared and I have talked about this several times. I mean, I can't even imagine. So, I mean, they were kind of born with this computer in their pocket, and there's things that have changed. But, I mean, people are just people. It's just generational, right?
And this gentle parenting thing that's going on with, I guess it's Gen X and millennials for their children. Like, it's the best thing I've ever seen. But there's a part of me that's like, but hear me out. Like, what if you took the phone away from them? Like, what if you just changed the Wi-Fi password? Like, what if they were grounded? Or what if, I'm not saying give them something to cry about. That is not what I'm saying. However, I don't know. I think that each generation kind of they swing so far away from what they came up with that's what gentle parenting, that's what came out of that. It's like, Gen X, our parents were our first bullies.
Dude,
So
you ain't lying.
I mean,
you're not lying about
good
that.
times. Good times.
Holy smokes. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys had a riding lawnmower, because that just brought me back to my childhood too. Like where I had it was ahead of its time. It was a nice Craftsman push mower, and it had that little clip thing that you raised up, and it was supposed to self-propel itself a little bit.
Yeah.
But after about 3 mows and all the grass that we had, it was manual labor, you know? And then we had, I don't know why, I think my dad purposely made sure we had the longest ditch in the world for me to weed whack. And then the neighbors would walk his retriever by, and that thing would shit in the ditch. And then I'd weed whack, and then that shit would get in my face. I'm like, what the hell? And one time the guy was walking by at the same time, and I'm like, your dog shit in the ditch. And he's like laughing at me, And I'm like, fuck. This sucks. I can't see our kids doing that at all. Like
I do not see any kids doing any lawn chores.
Even if I try and make them.
It's all service. And my grandmother had one of those manual lawnmowers with the blades. Like they make horror movies about these things.
Yeah.
Like it's you can lose a hand and a foot. But I was looking at one on Marketplace the other day thinking, the place I've been staying has a postage stamp lawn. Like I could totally get one of those and just do that. Like that's piece of cake.
And you see it in every horror movie where like Freddy Krueger or Jason's going after these guys, and they go to hide from them. And then they hide in a shed with those push mowers and chainsaws and machetes.
There's
nothing safe around them.
A big bushwhacking knife, like
Could
a
you
machete.
pick the worst place to hide?
Yeah.
All farmers just have hanging in a shed somewhere.
Right.
Loose too. Loose hanging from the ceiling.
Yep.
I'm like, I have never been I grew up in the country. I've never seen a farmer have that shit in his barn, just hanging loose. Yeah. Twister did that too. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Anyway. Yeah, I haven't seen
makes for good movies, I guess.
Have you guys seen the Twister too? I haven't seen it yet. I just almost can't do it now that Bill Paxton's gone. You know what I mean?
I can't.
No way.
I can't. I still forget that Bill Paxton is no longer with us, and it takes me a minute. Like, wait. Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, and same with him and like Gary Sinise. Those guys were like the actors of our time. And you mentioned The Stand earlier, right? I remember we had to sign, my mom had to sign special papers to go rent that movie because it came with 6 VHS cassette tapes. It was so long, and the book was like this thick.
You didn't see it on ABC? You didn't see it when it first came out?
We did. I think I saw that later on a rerun or something. But it was long, but the whole thing was incredible.
Oh man, we watched it as it came out.
I remember that.
And there was a point where I was like, "Is that Molly Ringwald?" Like I was
right
the whole time. I was like, "Wait, is that so and so?"
I think the running joke at the time, we'd go to school and like MOON, that spells dumbass.
Or, MOON, I forgot about that.
Put whatever word in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, and the tingles you got down your spine when the blind lady would speak,
Oh man, yeah.
Holy smokes, that was real creativity.
It was probably the best miniseries that came so close to what the book was, and it was perfect. It was just amazing. And then when the pandemic happened, and I was like, hey, I'm not a real big fan of this version of The Stand. Could we just not do that? Who's in charge? And they were like, nature's in charge. That's too bad. I was like, no, I read about this in a book and it does not turn out well for anybody. And so fun times. So fun. Yeah.
Did you have prom at your high school? This is a new thing that I just found out the other day, and apparently I'm way behind on this, but I guess proms aren't in high school gymnasiums anymore. Was your prom in a high school gymnasium?
No.
Dang.
No, we
were
go
older than man.
I can't remember I went to 3 proms. Thank you very much.
Wow.
As a
Cheers.
sophomore, a junior, and a senior.
Wow.
And they were in hotels.
Yeah, that's where ours was.
Because that seems like a good idea.
Right.
Having
Put
horny
a bunch
teenagers.
of horny teenagers in a hotel.
You're at
for
a
prom.
ballroom. Nothing else could happen after
Right.
that.
Nothing
Hey,
could go
Nothing
wrong.
else can happen right around the corner from a bar where
right.
it's questionable.
Uh-huh.
And hotel rooms upstairs. I'm a goody-goody. I was a goody-goody in high school, so I have no idea. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this? This is shocking. Like that, yeah. And now I write spicy romance, so I've really swung right on over to the other side.
That's quite the jump from goody-goody to what you're writing now.
I had a lot to make up for when I got to college.
I was not the goody-goody. I was the one that spiked the punch for sure. That's
hotel. I think it was hotel, and then we'd have an after party at school. So
weird. All right.
Yeah, it was bizarre. It was bizarre.
Jared, what about you?
Small town.
Yeah, I was at a hotel, big ballroom, and there was food, so that was weird. So my son and daughter, they just went to theirs last weekend, and there was it was on a rooftop. It was cold. There was no food. They had bottled water, and that was it. I'm like, that's weird.
I went to a wedding like that. That was not a fun wedding.
Yeah,
but it was short.
And they wouldn't let you leave and come back either. So you couldn't go get food and come back. So you definitely had to eat before you went.
They didn't have food at our prom, but they did have refreshments, which meant some sort of ice cream sherbet and a punch and a fruit punch kind of thing. And then maybe some desserts that the church ladies made. I don't know.
Church lady desserts sound good though.
I think we had
church lady dessert can be good.
Yeah.
There might have been pie.
Pizzas.
I don't know. Cookies.
Pizzas? Oh, nice. So when you first learned to drive and you first started driving, what was your jam in the car? What were you bumping to school or wherever you were going to?
I learned to drive long before I could drive.
Farmer's license.
No, I had an older boyfriend who had a stick shift and he hated driving. So he taught me how to drive his car and his truck. That's what I learned. That's what I learned to drive on was a stick shift pickup truck. Yeah, I did grow up in the country. But when I got my own car, and when I say my own car, the car that I shared with my whole entire family, Ford Escort,
nice,
with no air conditioning and black waffle seats that would imprint on your backside. I still have marks. And I absolutely love, but they don't play it on the radio, but I heard it in a movie and I fell in love with the song, is the Humpty Dance by Digital Underground.
Oh yeah.
Shock G. God.
Shock G.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love the beat and the bass line to that. And but one thing that they did play on the radio that I just absolutely loved was Pump Up the Jam. That was I think my junior or senior high school. Yeah. Pump Up the Jam. Dun, 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 by Mars. Marrs. I still hear it. I still hear it sampled, which I'm sure they sampled it from somewhere else, but
right.
I love a good
Music Factory
driving bass line when I'm driving. And of course it makes you drive faster. So that's
gotta break speed limit.
Why I have a heavy foot. It's fine.
Forward tempo.
Always 10 over.
Oh yeah. And then you
kind of look at the speakers, like one of the speakers in the bag is blown out, so it would like crackle. And my dad's like, "How did this happen?" I'm like, "I have no idea. This is an old car. What do you expect, man?"
Wait, you didn't have the big home speaker in the back of your car?
Hell no.
We did
I didn't
that.
even have a tape player in the car. Like it was a radio. That was it.
You didn't even have a cassette player?
No, I didn't get a cassette player till I wrecked that car. I wrecked the Escort, and I ended up getting a Ford LTD2, a white whale, which looks like a cop car from the front. So people would get the hell out of my way because they thought it was a cop. And that thing had a removable front.
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
detachable face.
the
Yeah.
detachable
CD player?
face. On
Yeah.
this, no, it's
Oh,
still a
it was
cassette player. So
it-
cassette.
oh,
I didn't have a CD
man.
player until I got this car, like 12
Dang.
something years ago. Yeah,
Right.
That's
yeah.
wild. And like, yeah, I realize now that like my wife and I both have CD players still in our vehicle. I'm like, who the hell buys CDs anymore? That's even crazy because we went from the, I saw 8 tracks in my dad's garage when I'd snoop through
Oh,
his shit as like a 12-year-old kid. Like, what's this? Can I play? Will this fit in the Atari? Can I play it? Oh no, that's Leonard Skinner. I didn't know what that was. But yeah, then in the like 90s, we went from that cassette tape to CDs. And so I had a Dodge Daytona, and everybody at school had a system. And I would just always, I think this might have happened after the weed whacking dog shit incident. And I think my dad felt bad. And he was like, maybe it was my birthday at Christmas or something. He got me a gift card to Car Toys. It's like a stereo place we got up there. And I went to take that in there. And my dad was driving me to a football thing. And then when I got done playing football or whatever for summer camp or something, he took me to the Car Toys. And my dad didn't know what was going on. He just knew that I was getting I told him I was getting a CD player. He was so pissed when they pulled the car out and he saw that the cassette player wasn't in there. He was like, why would you want to lose that technology? Why would you do this? This is something that
it sucks, Dad.
It's going to be overnight. Like this thing's going to be gone. And now you don't have the cassette player. Like he was so fucking pissed. And I'm like, no, I swear to God, this is it. Like no one uses cassettes anymore. Like
I had one of those cassettes that you could put in the system and it would play it would play a CD.
Yeah.
I
Same
had
here.
a mobile CD
oh yeah.
player.
Yeah, the right. And you put the
And,
cassette tape in and it had the wire to your Discman.
Yeah, Discman. Thank you.
Yep,
I was
the
like,
Discman.
and then I had a certain little setup in the seat next to me because if you just let it sit, it would get crooked and then it would skip
Right.
and then you'd screw up everything. So I was like, oh, let's put this precious baby in its little nest of towels and so that I can hear my jams going. And I don't remember what those CDs were. I think I had a KLF, 3 a.m. Yeah.
Yep.
And Marky Mark. I had Marky Mark and
yeah.
the Funky Bunch.
Oh, absolutely.
Salt and Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
God.
You had the big CD book that had your 100 CDs in it.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't have one of those, but but I worked as a DJ for a couple of years. So most of my CDs were in crates so I could take them in alphabetical order because I needed to be able to find them. But yeah, I worked as I do parties and play music for people and MC and all kinds of nonsense. And
it seemed like there was just like that one guy though, like a drug dealer of CDs. There was that one guy at school, or everyone had that friend that had the book of CDs. It wasn't all of us. It was just that one guy, and he was the guy who could pull your CD out and he could fix the scratches somehow. He would rub his shirt, and then he's like, then the CD didn't skip anymore. I was not that talented guy, but I think we may have all had a friend or knew a guy who had that capability somehow. Or maybe it was just bullshit. I don't know. Maybe just pulling it out, fixed it, and put it back.
I was that guy. Sorry.
You were that guy?
I had like 5 CD books that each carried like 100 discs.
Damn.
The drug dealer.
I always get, but did you keep?
That's all I spent my money on.
Did you keep the cases though?
No, for a little while, but then I had this huge pile. I'm like, what am I going to do that? Oh yeah.
Let me tell you, I kept them all in their. I kept them all in their original cases, kept them in pretty pristine condition. Yeah. And when I moved from Austin, Texas to Jackson, Mississippi, that was the end of I'm not moving these CDs again. I had hundreds and hundreds, 1,000 CDs. And I took them in one day to the We'll Buy Your CD place. And I got a ridiculous amount of money for them because they were still in the case. They still had all the stuff. And I was awesome. Like, yeah, how you doing? And so I'm like, I got my money's worth out of those, but I was glad I kept the cases because it made reselling them easier. Yeah.
I had to buy genre, so like one case was rock and roll and one case was like rap and something like that. And
of course you did.
It was all alphabetized, right? So I knew exactly where everything was. But I was also that kid that figured out how to hook the home speaker up to the stereo system. So at the time, you had your regular 6x9s in your car or whatever the stock speaker was. And I'm like, hey, I can hook this wire up to this port and this wire up to this port. And now I have a 12-inch subwoofer in my car. So now you can hear me for blocks away. So yeah, my parents loved that. So did
I threw one of my dad's like way tall 80s home theater, those fake oak wood looking speakers in the back seat one time. No amp or anything. I think I went right into where the 6x9 went or something.
Yep. That's what I did.
Oh, that's funny. That is hilarious. So what other cool Gen X experiences do you recall, Dawn? We're just having a good old time here.
I don't know. I drank a lot when I was in college, so everything's a blur.
Some boons.
I got the biggest kick the other day out of watching this. It's the British guy who's traveling through the U.S. and he pulls up some MD 2020. And he says, what's the MD stand for? And I am laughing until I'm crying. I'm like, that poor, sweet, precious baby. You have no idea what you're about to get into. So I stitched it and I was like, yeah, MD stands for Mad Dog and 2020 stands for you won't be able to see straight for 3 to 5 business days. And that is how long the hangover lasts. And you should get your liver checked because your stomach lining will never be the same. The end.
The beer bong. Yeah.
I was just like,
the beer bong.
Gen X experience. I mean, I don't know. I did a lot of crazy shit when I was a kid and young person, and just super glad there weren't any cameras on phones or phones for that matter.
Because we'd be so screwed today.
We'd be destroyed.
We'd be screwed. I'm like, I do enough stupid shit now.
Shit we did,
Like you don't want to know. I don't even know if I can talk about half this shit. Like, I'm like, I don't know what the statute of limitations are on some of these things.
Right.
So
is that 7 years on that one? I don't remember.
Is that forever? I don't know. Right. But like, we would be left alone at home without parental supervision for a long time. When I graduated high school when I was 17. So senior night, senior night, me and 2 of my friends, we went from Indianapolis to Cincinnati, Ohio. They had senior night at Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio. So we crossed state lines. I was 17. They 2 adults took me across state lines and we rented a hotel room in Cincinnati because Kings Island would open up the theme park and then you could roam around. It was really cool from the short time we were there. And then we went to get the hotel room. The hotel did not want to rent it to us because it was a 17-year-old and 2 18-year-olds, and we had crossed a state line, and there were no credit cards. We had cash, and so the manager of the hotel called my friend's mom, and basically got it approved over the phone. And so I was like, well, thank God. So we get to our room. And then suddenly there's these young men everywhere because you got fresh meat walking through the hotel, and they're like, hey, how you doing? And this guy comes up, he's like, hey, you ladies want to come next door for a party? I was like, yeah, okay, cool. What you got? He's like, come on in. And it does not look like the same hotel room we have. Like, it's a party. It's all so many people, all this shit. And in the bathtub, first time I ever saw a pony keg. Like, it was that plexiglass. And I was like, what the hell is that? It looks like a beach ball. What is that? And he's like, this is a pony keg. You should try this. I was like, I'm good. I'm all set. That's fine. I was like, I drank an amaretto sour when I was in 8th grade and got really sick afterwards. So maybe we just won't right now. But thanks.
We'll skip the date rape over state lines.
Yeah, I think I'm going to skip the roofies.
I won/lost, I think, who could drink a pony cake faster.
Oh God.
When I woke up the next morning, I found out I won.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, that's the game that you lose even if you win.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
when did you first start writing? So you went to college and then you were in corporate America for a little bit, right?
A million years. I became a professional writer, which means I got paid to write when I was 12.
Wow. Okay.
I was like,
awesome.
I mean, it sounds awesome now, but if you think about it, like, how many 12-year-olds would you trust to write something for a newspaper like
That's
today?
wild.
Like none,
Yeah.
absolutely none. But I would write the school sort of column every week. I did that for a lot of years. And then, I mean, I've been a paid writer since then. And I was a journalist for 25 years. And all this time, I went to college, and people who probably meant well, but didn't know what the hell they were talking about, said, you'll never make any money as a writer. And I said, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll be a journalist then, but you know what? You don't make any money as a journalist either. So,
Right.
And so a couple years ago, I was like, what am I waiting on? Like, what am I waiting for somebody to give me permission to write a book? Like, I have no idea how to write a book. I don't know how to format it, but I can learn anything. I can teach myself anything.
Right.
And so, which I think is part of that Gen X, like, bring it kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I just figure shit out. Like, I will figure it out. I don't know, and I don't have to know right now. And if I'm waiting for permission, I'm never going to get it. So I'm going to give myself permission, and I'm going to write this book. And I had this idea for a narrative. It's narrative nonfiction. There are these two guys in Jackson, Mississippi, who have this amazing restaurant. And they opened it in the 90s by crowdfunding it. Like, that was before that was even a thing. But they crowdfunded this restaurant. It's in an area that not all, like, most of the restaurant workers had never seen a restaurant without a drive-through. And so they were really sort of breaking a lot of barriers and open up this new experience for people in Jackson, Mississippi. And they still, the restaurant, they've got several restaurants now, and it's still going strong, and they have amazing customer service. And I got to know the owners, and I said, what is the secret to your success? Like, I want to know, like, you ruined me for customer service on every other restaurant, by the way. Thanks for that. But how did you do it? And he starts talking, and it's just bouncing around in my head. And I was like, you know what? That would be a great story. And it would probably be an even better book. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I want to write your story, but you need to give me access to everything, but you're not going to have any editorial control, and I make all the money. What do you think? And they said yes.
That's nice. That is
think?
awesome.
Like,
I love the transparency, the audience, the honesty too. Yeah.
And the head chef, so it's Jeff and Dan, and Jeff's sort of the face and the marketing person. Now he's the sole owner because Dan retired and bought out Jeff bought him out. But Dan, who people had been after Dan forever to do a cookbook and give away his recipes and all this stuff, and he always told him no. And so as I'm giving him the pitch, Dan says, you think people would like recipes with that? And I said, yes, I do.
So not only they gave you the keys to the castle, but I mean,
he gave me 8 of his recipes.
Secret sauce too, right?
Yeah. Right. So that book came out, and I embedded with their business for about 5 months, and which is real hardship, by the way. I love this restaurant, so it's like I was hungry all the time. I'm just gonna say, everything smells so good, and garlic and butter together is like the best smell on the planet. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, almost as good as bacon. But I embedded with them and learned all about their business and interviewed a bunch of people, and then wrote that book, and came out and sold enough books to make my rent 1 month. That was really something. And
that's
then
when
nothing.
You're there, right?
Yeah. And then nothing.
Oh,
and I'm working, and it took me so that's 2018. And then during the pandemic, I was taking care of my parents. Everything had sort of shut down. I was a consultant at that time. I was consulting with businesses and teaching them marketing and storytelling and all that. And, but everything had gotten sort of closed down, and people aren't really hiring consultants because they're not really sure what to do with their business. And so I was like, I've always said that if I had all this time on my hands, I would write, I'm going to write a Hallmark screenplay. That's what I'm going to do. So in 2020, I wrote 2 Hallmark screenplays, and nobody wanted to buy them because they're not making movies. in a pandemic, by the way.
Right.
Not my smartest plan, but it was a start. And so a couple months go by and I'm traveling. The work started to pick up and I was living in Florida and I traveled back to Mississippi and I had to go to North Carolina for a couple of things. And so I had a lot of time in the car and I kept thinking, I wonder if I could learn how to format a romance novel. Like if there was a book that would teach me how to like format a novel. And I get to a rest stop and I pull open my phone and Amazon's like, hey, have you seen this book, How to Write a Novel?
Oh, wow.
The universe.
I did not say anything out loud. It was just me in the car. And I'm like, son of a bitch. So I, of course, immediately was like, add to cart. So I bought that book. I read that book and I ended up, I was going to write another sweet romance, which is what Hallmark movies are. They're sweet. There's not any spice in them. And I started writing this book about a 40-year-old cop who meets the love of her life, but he turns out to be a murder suspect. And the book started writing itself, and then the spice sort of added itself in. And I was like, well, I don't know where that came from, but okay, let's go with it. And before I knew it, I had written this book and I had written a cliffhanger into the last page, which you don't do on a romance novel, by the way. And so I was like, well, shit, now I've got to write another book and another and another. Right. And so that series was 4 books. Then it spun off another series and it spun off another series and that series. And just yesterday, the audiobook for that first book came out. And I have been listening to so if you do an audiobook, you have to listen to it. You have to listen to your own words.
Right.
And it's like, and so I've been listening to this book for the last couple of days and I was like, man, I actually really love this book. Like it is probably one of my favorites and it's my favorite character. And so I may bring her back for something different. I don't know yet, but we'll see. I'm working on all the audiobooks right now. We'll see what happens.
Well, that's pretty cool. So Dawn Dugle, the original DIY right there. You like the do-it-yourselfer. That's how you got into writing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how this recession survival tip nonsense came out too. I was like, I kept seeing people feeling really worried and scared and, what do we do? And I was sort of I've been in this sort of limbo. Like the last book that I was contracted to write, the one that I've told everybody I was writing, I finished it, I published it, and I've been sort of looking for a full-time job to pay the bills while I write some more smut.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't really feel like being funny and writing funny. And yeah, I'm worried too, but I'm not let's sit around and feel sorry for ourselves kind of person. What can I do? What can I share? Is there anything that I've learned over the last 51 years that I could share with people? And I was like, you know what? Let's just start throwing stuff out there. Let's see what sticks. I did not expect people to get so excited about laundry. That it's still going strong.
We'll show some clips in here too. Her TikTok Gen X survival tips are awesome.
And whatever I've done in video and then some that I haven't done videos for, I started writing a book about that. So I was like, you know what, maybe I will release Gen X recession survival tips as a book because there's a lot to them and people have a lot of questions and they want something to do. They give me the checklist and I'm like, okay, well, here you go.
How do we get prepared?
How do you prepare?
Yeah.
And I just, from years of being a journalist and talking to people and hearing their stories and seeing what people are stocking up on and going down YouTube rabbit holes and TikTok rabbit holes, like you just learn things. And I'm like, I really enjoy falling down the prepper rabbit hole from time to time.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm never going to make it in a zombie apocalypse. I have figured that out. I'm like, I am pretty scrappy, but I am woefully unprepared for this.
Jared and I talk about that all the time for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think mine's going to be in the well house.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like how that seems to be kind of the narrative lately. Like, how many times do we have to see 600 different ways of Walking Dead? Like, I get it. Like, the zombie thing is still popular.
Yeah.
But it's like, is everything just a dystopian future now? I don't know. Is there some cool future?
I will say this. So last year in October, so before the election, again, does not matter who you voted for.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Here's the truth of it. I knew that if we would be in the situation we are in right now, that certain books would go gangbusters. Dystopian, fantasy, really dark time travel. Those kinds of books were going to take off this year because you need something different than what you're seeing. Again, doesn't matter who you voted for, I'm not going there. But I do know that economically in the past, if this certain thing happens in politics, these are the types of books that go wild. And I talked to my bestie, my book bestie, and I was like, yeah, I got this idea for a time travel series. It's pretty dark. And she's like, well, you better get on it because looks like you're gonna it's gonna be a good time to write it. I was like, and I didn't, and I'm kicking myself now, but I think that we've got time. But anyway.
I think we're due for an Abby Hoffman steal this book type movement for sure. You know, like
Abby Hoffman steal this book. Was that?
He was like one of the Chicago 7 or whatever, the trials, whatever. So you had that big whole political thing going on in Chicago or whatever. And he was kind of like this outspoken guy. He had a thing on Netflix. He was played by Borat, you know,
Sasha Cohen.
Yeah. And so, but that was like a real life character, kind of a martyr type character, but he was kind of a smart ass, you know, he was head of the zippies or the hippies or whatever political movement or something like that. And he wrote this book called Steal This Book, and everybody stole that book. It was almost as stolen as a hotel Bible it was like one of the most stolen books, you know, but it was a survival guide. It was kind of like a hippie survival guide or something, you know, but we need something kind of similar to that, like right now, like a Gen X survival guide, you know, maybe that's where we can kind of help out the millennials or whatever. Is like, how do you get by when, you know, I mean, your zipper doesn't work. Well, there's the safety pin or whatever, you know, like what we used to do when we were growing up, just kind of all these tricks or whatever. Something like that is needed. I definitely think that
when I was before the internet, I sound 1,000 years old when I say this. Before the internet, interwebs were really big.
We know what you're talking about. It's okay.
Yeah.
We know.
Before there was an internet, I mean, I was in college. And we were in a chat room. I thought a chat room was the biggest thing I had ever seen in my life. And you had to go to a computer lab to do it. And you only could be in there for a little bit of time. And it wasn't until, 1999, 2000 that we really started getting internet access where you could look things up. But prior to that, if you had something that needed to be fixed, if you couldn't call a dad, you'd go to a hardware store and you'd find the oldest grizzled old fart that works there and be like, hey, what do you know about plumbing? And he's like, let me tell you about plumbing. And then 20 minutes later, after he's told you the story, he'll tell you how to fix it. Like, that's the good stuff. And like, for those of you who don't understand what that's like, just imagine that you're going to find a recipe right now and you have to go through the whole day in the life blog before you get to the recipe online. That's very similar to what the hardware store was like. You just had to sit through it live. You can't scroll. You can't fast forward the recipe. You can't jump to recipe.
Cut that old man off. Yeah.
And do not call that man is a veteran, for God's sakes, and you will thank him for his service, motherfucker. Like, you gotta wait for it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm like, oh. And then he'll say something like really sexist, like, are you sure your husband knows what you're doing? And I'm like, I don't know. Have you found a husband for me? Is he around here somewhere? I must have lost him. Where is he? And, you know, and then he's like, you're sassy. I like it. Let me show you where the parts are. And
now you're friends.
You go.
Yeah.
Right now we're friends. Now you learn something. And I've learned a lot of things by doing it the hard way, like doing it the wrong way and then redoing it. Right. All those people who try to do new flooring in their house and they don't put a vapor barrier down. I'm like, oh Lord Jesus, save them all. You know what? You'll figure it out.
Plywood.
You find it. You find it.
Yep.
You'll figure it out. It's fine. Oh, you don't want to prime your walls. You don't want to prime and kill the mold that is growing. Like, you know what? You do you.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. So, but that's how we learned it, and I think that the internet has made us a little too reliant on that. And so every so often when I'm out and about and I have a friend who runs a secondhand bookstore, I go back into what I call her prepper section, and I find the best books back there. Like anything on gardening. I have 2 medical books here, like actual medical things. One's a medical dictionary and the other one's a manual. I've got first aid. I've got how to cook over, like campfire cooking, but like real campfire cooking. Like if you lost internet, electricity, and gas and running water, what would you do? Well, I've got a whole shitload of books that I can do a solar panel. I can do a water reclamation. Like there's things you can do. But you need directions, and they're not going to be on the internet because you're not going to have internet. So what are you going to do?
Right.
Exactly.
You're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've reached the portion of the show that we like to call Jared's 5. So what we do here is Jared's going to ask you a question for the next guest, and he's going to ask you a question from the previous guest, and then some fun things in between. Sound cool?
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, our last guest that had a question was Jeremy Montgomery, right?
Yep, Jeremy Montgomery in episode 31.
And he helps veterans find jobs after they get out of service. And so his question for our next guest was, what can you do to support veterans more?
Oh, well, I feel like I support veterans pretty well. We have a whole crap ton of them in my family. Including three in the next generation. So 2 of my nieces and 1 of their husbands is in service. So one way that we support them is to anything to make their life easier, which sounds really pie in the sky, like, oh, I'm going to make their life easier. Really? Are you now? How are you going to do that? And when I talk about that, I mean things like, can I babysit so they can have a night out, or can I go clean their house before they PCS somewhere? Can I help them do a move out clean? Can I help them box up if they're not going to have movers come in and move them from place to place? I'm kind of a moving expert. Can I help you do that? Can I help you declutter? That's what I can do. On a more global scale, the way that I have helped veterans and that I continue and enjoy doing it is talking to, especially veteran-owned businesses, how to take their story and use it as marketing. Yeah. So everybody has a story, but not everybody knows how to market themselves. And they think, well, that's advertising, that's marketing. It's using your story to reach your customer and tell them why you are perfect for what they need, is what that is. And I've enjoyed being able to do that and help small businesses, nonprofits, veteran-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. I'm speaking to a group of college spokespeople next month. I'm a keynote speaker for something like that. So it's something I enjoy doing. It's something I absolutely love when people grasp. Can I change the world for a veteran? I can with my votes.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I am keeping an eagle eye on what my lawmakers are doing or not doing when it comes to our veterans and our government, because my favorite read is the Constitution. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Nice.
What else you got?
Yeah, I'll leave it at that too, because then we can rabbit hole.
I have 3 copies of the Constitution, 3 hard copies of the Constitution, because anytime I see one, they're usually like 50 cents or $1, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna get a copy. I don't have them anywhere near me. Otherwise, I'd pull them up and show them to you. But yeah, 3 copies.
Yeah. Do you think it's your job to uphold the Constitution? And I don't know. Answer doesn't fly with me. But whatever.
I mean, first of all, nobody's shocked. Nobody is shocked by that. But, hey.
Yeah. But all right. Next question. What is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, oh God, it's a tie. It's a tie between The Princess Bride and Steel Magnolias. And it depends on what kind of mood I want to be in. Do I want to laugh and have an adventure? I'm going to watch The Princess Bride. Do I need to cry it out? I'm watching Steel Magnolias. Because if you keep it together with Sally Field in the cemetery scene, you are a cold-hearted, stone cold serial killer, and I don't need to hear about it. So,
right. You know, it's funny you say that. I've been thinking about recording or finding a clip of where Miracle Max is doing his thing, right? And the wife comes in and goes, "Liar, liar!" And I just want to play that on so many TikTok lives.
oh my gosh. Carol Kane, I about fell out of my chair when I saw Carol Kane show up in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I was like,
oh yeah.
Oh my God, is that Carol Kane? And then I'm immediately looking her up and I'm like, it is Carol Kane.
Yeah.
Yes, Queen.
She was great in that too.
Yep. Yes. She's great in everything.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. You kind of answered this one, but we'll see what happens. What was your favorite Saturday morning cartoon?
Really we didn't really watch a lot of Saturday morning cartoons, but I don't know. Let's see. I mean, my brother and we're still sending He-Man and She-Ra memes to each other now, so I'll go with He-Man.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
I don't know if he was Saturday morning. He might have been after school. I don't know.
I think he might have been after school. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that should tell you, like, right. I have the power.
Yeah. Riding his big tiger.
Yes. And and I absolutely love it when people take the cartoons and things that we grew up with and like put them to different music or maybe turn it, like change the dialogue, like Batman and Robin, all those Batman and Robin ones just crack me up to no end. Justice League, I guess the Justice League, that was Saturday morning.
Those were good too.
Yeah. Those, I like that. But Wonder Woman, so yeah.
There you go.
All right. What's one thing that you think people should know about you that maybe they don't?
I am officially out of all fucks to give. Just kidding. I lost all my fucks to give in my middle 40s, and like people really should know that going in. No, I think the thing is what's the serious but funny answer? That I am a story collector. I am a story seeker. And ultimately, I will get the story out of people, whether they like it or not. And what that means is I can always tell when people are lying.
Amen.
A good detector to have.
Yeah. And that worked really well as a journalist, by the way. I could always tell. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's awesome.
All right. What's one thing you would tell your teenage self today if you could go back?
Oh, that the only opinion that matters is yours. That you are good enough, you are smart enough, you are beautiful enough, and it does not matter what other people think of you, because you'd be really surprised how little they actually do.
Yeah, I find it, we've been doing this for a while. I find that interesting that a lot of Gen Xers say something similar to that, which means I don't think we heard it enough, right?
We didn't. And we were brought up to be worried about what other people thought of us, to children to be seen and not heard. Yep. That, and as a girl, our parents would say stuff like, why don't you let that grown, creepy man hug you? Because he's related. And I'm like, no, I don't want to hug the creepy man. And like, just do it. Don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass me. That was another one. And I'm just like, there's a fantastic TikTok out there where this gal is doing her daughter's hair, and she runs through the Gen X things that our parents said to us, and she leaves off the terrible part. And she's like, and my favorite that just gets me, it hits me every time. She says, children are to be seen and her daughter says, played with. And I'm like, damn it, there's my emotions again. I'm not supposed to have those at Gen X.
No.
Yeah, we did not hear that enough. And we weren't, I don't know. We were raised to be little billboards for other people, and having a personality or being independent, while sounds like a good idea, was really frowned upon, I think. And which is why I'm all out of fucks to give now, because I'm like, you know what? I gave all my fucks at the office. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. What is your question for our next guest? It can be anything.
I'm gonna take it to writing and books. And what is the book that you think should be required reading of everybody?
All right. It's a good one. Do you have a preference?
What my required reading would be? Besides the Constitution right now. I think there's two that I would recommend, and one is called On Tyranny, by Timothy Snyder, and it's 20 Ways to Fight Tyrannical Rule. Good times.
It's a good one.
And I would also recommend The Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler.
I don't think I've read that one. I'll have to look that up.
It will, I read it in one day because I couldn't put it down. And then I had nightmares after that because of the subject matter, and not in like, oh, it'll jump out and get you. It's about America in the future. The dystopian America in the future. And it's
all right. Awesome.
Shockingly scary to how close to where we are.
We are today.
Yeah. So on that note, and smut. Just read smut. Seriously, go read more smut before it's banned. Before anybody gets their hands on my spicy romance. Yeah, go read. You know, sometimes you can just read for fun, and you can go read something that makes you laugh and something that makes you go, I'm going to need a few minutes alone. Let me just take this into the other room. Like, or honey, have you seen, how flexible are you right now? Like, go read this smut, enjoy it, and never tell the author what you did with it. Just tell them you enjoyed it. The end.
Awesome.
I'll speak to myself.
All right, everybody. This has been Dawn Dugle right here on Common X. She's been a riot. You can visit her at www.dawndugle.com. You can find her on TikTok. Where else can they find you, Dawn?
I mean, my driveway. No, just kidding. Don't find me in my driveway. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I have a weekly newsletter that's free, and I share funny stories and free books, and you can sign up for that on my website.
Yeah. Right. Is that part of your VIP reader group, the Dawn's Fab Flock?
Yes. And then I also have a Patreon where people can support my writing, and then they're usually the patrons get my books first before anybody else. So
that is super awesome. Well, it was so nice meeting you, and you are now part of the Common X family and a friend. Please keep in touch. Everybody, it's been episode 32 with Dawn Dugle. Thanks for joining us on Common X.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today to the podcast, Common X with Jared and Ian. We really appreciate you guys and would love your support. So make sure you click that subscribe or like button, or follow us on all our social media platforms and on YouTube and Spotify, because that would really help us out. and that helps us bring more episodes to you guys every week, and hopefully from content that you guys want to see. So reach out, TikTok, YouTube, leave comments. If there's anything that you guys want to see or any guests that you want us to try and get on, let us know. We do have a good lineup coming. So thank you again. We love you guys. Thanks for your support. And we'll see you next time. And remember, common sense isn't that common. So that's why we're bringing common sense back from Generation X.